Lisa Mitchell was born on August 5, 1983, in Calgary, Canada. From a young age, she had a genuine passion for anything creative. When she was just 4 years old, she became interested in drawing, and that passion stayed with her as she grew older. In high school, she also discovered a love for music and even started a band with a few of her friends. After graduating, Lisa decided to delay college. She needed to work and support herself, so she moved between several part-time jobs. While working at a restaurant, she met a man named Alan. The two began dating, and a few years later they had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Eventually, they moved into their own home in a quiet neighborhood and focused on raising their family. This continued until October 2012. On the 27th, Lisa, who was 29 at the time, headed to her evening shift at a hotel where she worked alongside her mother. That night, the hotel was hosting a Halloween-themed party, and Lisa and her mom had a great time working the event together. After her shift, Lisa decided to spend the night at her mother's place since the drive back to her own house was fairly long. The next morning, they talked about the party and went over their plans for the week when suddenly Lisa's phone rang. After a brief call, she told her mom she needed to head home right away. She said goodbye, got into her car, and left. Her mom thought it was a bit strange but didn't think much of it at the time. However, over the next few days, that uneasy feeling began to grow because Lisa never called her back. And that just wasn't like her. Lisa usually checked in with her mom several times a week, no matter what. Her mom tried calling, but Lisa didn't answer. At first, she assumed Lisa was just busy. But as the days went by and there was still no word, she began to feel that something was wrong. Eventually, she decided to drive to Lisa's house to make sure everything was okay, but Lisa wasn't there. Instead, she was greeted by Alan, who told her he had no idea where Lisa was either. According to him, the day after she left her mother's, October 28th, they had gotten into an argument. He said he went out to buy cigarettes, and when he returned, Lisa was gone. But something about that story didn't feel right to Lisa's mom. She couldn't imagine her daughter leaving without saying a word, especially abandoning her children. Then she noticed something strange. While talking to Alan in the hallway, she saw Lisa's winter coat and boots still in the closet. And since it was cold outside, there was no way Lisa would have gone anywhere without them. That's when she decided to look through the rest of the house. Inside, she found Lisa's favorite bracelet and necklace, the ones she always wore whenever she left the house. Her purse, however, was nowhere to be found. Before she left, Alan mentioned one more thing. He said Lisa had sent him an email and suggested her mom check her inbox too. When she got home, she turned on the computer, and sure enough, there was a message from Lisa. In it, Lisa said she was feeling tired and needed to get away for a while. As strange as it all seemed, the messages that followed kept reassuring her that everything was fine. They continued exchanging emails over the next few weeks. But no matter how many times her mom asked, Lisa never explained why she had left or where she was. On November 16th, Lisa's mom woke up to find a missed call from her daughter. It had come in at 2:45 in the morning and gone to voicemail. At first, she felt a wave of relief just hearing Lisa's voice. But as she listened to the actual message, that relief quickly turned into concern. Something about it felt off, and the more she replayed it, the less sense it made. Lisa said, "Hey, I'm okay. Sometimes my weeks get crazy, you know, and it was quiet for a while, and then all of a sudden this happened, and within half a day I should, but he's back now and I gotta go. Love you." None of it made any sense. Who was she talking about? What had happened? The message only raised more questions. That's when Lisa's mom realized she couldn't just wait any longer. She decided it was time to go to the police. She told them everything that had been going on, and investigators began a search for Lisa. After speaking with her mom, they learned that Lisa and Alan's relationship had been rocky from the very beginning. Even before their children were born, the couple broke up and got back together more times than anyone could count. Things calmed down somewhat after they had kids, but eventually, new problems began to surface. Lisa was frustrated that Alan had never managed to hold down a steady job. He bounced from one gig to another and sometimes didn't work at all. That left Lisa to support the family on her own, juggling 2 full-time jobs while also raising the children. It all started to wear on her, and Lisa had begun thinking about ending the relationship. But in the end, she stayed for the sake of the kids. When detectives brought Alan in for questioning, he admitted that the relationship had been troubled. He said that in recent years, he and Lisa had agreed to stay together only for the children's sake. According to him, Lisa had been seeing other men from time to time, and he claimed he was fully aware of it. As for her disappearance, Alan said he had no idea where she might have gone. He added that he wasn't all that surprised she decided to leave, but what he couldn't understand was how she could just walk away and leave him alone with 2 children. Police searched the house but didn't find anything that pointed to what might have happened. Then they checked Lisa's computer and found conversations with several men, which raised some eyebrows since those men lived in other cities. Investigators began to wonder if maybe Lisa had gone to stay with one of them. But when they contacted them, each of the men said the same thing: they hadn't seen Lisa. Police also tried to trace the email address that had been sending messages to Lisa's mom, as well as the phone number that left the voicemail, but neither led anywhere. Over the following months, investigators continued searching for new leads and pushed Lisa's story out to the media, but there was still no sign of her. Lisa's mom eventually stopped receiving emails, and with each passing month, her hope of ever seeing her daughter again began to fade. Deep down, she suspected Alan might have had something to do with Lisa's disappearance, but every time she brought it up, police told her the same thing: there was no evidence linking him to the case. As for Alan, he continued raising the kids on his own and eventually landed a steady job with decent pay. He met a man who was opening a new car dealership, and the man offered him a full-time position. Later on, that man's girlfriend started babysitting Alan's kids from time to time, which made things a little easier for him. Eventually, Alan started thinking about dating again, and not long after, he actually got the chance. One day, as he was leaving work, a woman accidentally rear-ended his car. She lost control because of the weather and told him her company would cover the repairs. As a friendly gesture, she also gave him a pair of hockey tickets. They stayed in touch after that, and Alan began thinking about the possibility of building something more with her. This continued for about 2 years. It seemed like Alan was moving on with his life. And there were still no updates, no signs, and no messages from Lisa. In early December 2014, 2 years after Lisa's disappearance, Alan went on a work trip to another city with 2 of his coworkers. While he was there, he got a call from the police. A detective introduced himself and said he had just been assigned to Lisa's case. He told Alan he believed Lisa was no longer alive and that they had a warrant to search his house again. In fact, they were already on their way. At that moment, Alan was sitting with his coworkers, and according to them, his face went completely pale during the call. After hanging up, he asked for a cigarette and said he needed to talk to them. Alan said that 2 years earlier, he and Lisa had gotten into yet another argument. He couldn't even remember what started it, only that it escalated quickly. According to him, Lisa grabbed a kitchen knife and began threatening him. She allegedly said she could send him to the hospital, then call the police and claim he attacked her first, and that he would end up in prison. Alan claimed that what happened next was a blur. Somehow, he managed to grab the knife from her, then pushed her to the floor and started choking her. When he realized she was dead, panic set in. He didn't know what to do, but in the end, he decided to bury her body underneath the house and make it look like she had simply left. After finishing his story, Alan turned to one of his coworkers for advice. He knew this man had gone through something somewhat similar in the past. The coworker had told Alan that he once crashed his car while driving drunk, and his friend who was in the car with him had died. To avoid taking the blame, he had moved his friend's body into the driver's seat. So now, Alan was looking to him for guidance. He started thinking through his options. He considered running away or trying to quickly hire a good lawyer who might be able to challenge the search warrant. At one point, he even floated the idea of going back to Calgary and burning the house down. But then he corrected himself, saying that a simple fire wouldn't be enough to destroy the evidence. He would have to blow the whole place up. In the end, he realized he probably didn't have enough time to pull off any of those plans and decided that running was his best chance. His co-workers supported the idea, and Alan started thinking about where he could go. But there was one thing he hadn't accounted for. He would never get the chance to carry out any of his plans. You see, that phone call from the detective wasn't just a heads-up about a search warrant. In reality, it was the final step in a long, carefully planned police operation that had been in the works for over a year, all designed to get Alan to confess. Back in 2013, the province of Alberta had updated its laws regarding missing persons, giving law enforcement more tools to conduct investigations. Around that time, Lisa's case was handed off to a different department, and they immediately put those new tools to use. One of their first moves was digging deeper into the phone activity tied to the voicemail Lisa had left her mom. What they discovered was that the call came from a cheap prepaid phone that had only been active for about a month after Lisa disappeared. During that time, it was used to make just 5 calls, 1 to Lisa's mom and 4 to Alan. The problem was, Alan had never once mentioned those calls to police. What made things even more suspicious was the location of the phone activity. According to data from the cell provider, all 5 calls were made using a cell tower located near Lisa and Alan's home. And considering Lisa was supposedly long gone by then, that detail raised some serious red flags. That's when investigators began digging deeper into Alan's background. They pulled his financial records, and what they found was deeply disturbing. On the day Lisa disappeared, Alan had made a series of highly suspicious purchases: a large plastic tub, bleach, rubber gloves, cement, a big bucket, wooden boards, and cat litter. The last item stood out the most. Alan was severely allergic to cats, so there was no reason for him to be buying litter. Altogether, the purchases painted a grim picture. It looked like Alan had been preparing to dispose of a body. As for the phone Lisa supposedly used, detectives uncovered another clue: a purchase made with Alan's bank card at Walmart. The store had been selling the exact same model of prepaid phone used to make those 5 mysterious calls. But even with all of this, investigators still didn't have enough solid evidence to arrest Alan. They needed one of 2 things, either Lisa's body or a confession. So they came up with a bold plan, an undercover operation designed to infiltrate Alan's life. It was given the code name Aurora. The first step was to send in an undercover female officer. She, accidentally, bumped into Alan's car, which led to a casual conversation and, over time, a friendly connection. A little while later, she introduced him to another undercover officer, a man posing as someone about to open a new car dealership. He offered Alan a job, and the two quickly became friends. To keep up the illusion, police even made sure the dealership was fully set up and operating, so Alan would have no reason to suspect anything. Several more undercover officers were brought into the operation, placed at the same dealership to build trust with Alan. Over time, they all became part of his daily life. Even the woman who often babysat his kids, the girlfriend of his supposed co-worker, turned out to be an undercover cop. As the months went on, Alan began to trust them. That's when detectives decided it was time to move into the final phase of the operation. They set up a fake work trip involving Alan and 2 of the undercover officers who had been posing as his colleagues. During that trip, the lead detective planned to call Alan and tell him they were about to search his house and that they believed Lisa's body was hidden there. The goal was simple: catch Alan off guard, make him panic, and hopefully get him to confess to the people he now saw as friends. The plan worked almost perfectly. Both undercover officers traveling with Alan were wearing hidden recording devices, and they captured his full confession on tape. Shortly after Alan confessed to the undercover officers, he was arrested and brought back to Calgary. Meanwhile, investigators headed to his house to conduct the search. It's worth noting that police had actually searched the property 2 years earlier, including the basement, but nothing had seemed out of place at the time. This time, however, detectives had a clearer idea of what Alan might have done with Lisa's body, thanks to the list of suspicious purchases. So, they combed through the basement much more carefully. In one corner, they spotted a strange cemented-over platform. It looked out of place, and its height matched exactly the wooden board Alan had bought 2 years earlier. Officers began taking the structure apart, and it didn't take long before they uncovered a hidden space underneath. Inside was a large plastic tub filled with salt and cat litter, and sure enough, inside that tub was the body of Lisa Mitchell. Even though Lisa's body had been hidden for 2 full years, Alan's attempt to preserve and conceal it ended up working against him. The way he stored the remains actually helped preserve them well enough for the medical examiner to determine the cause of death. And just as Alan had said in his confession, it was strangulation. While police now had everything they needed to formally charge him, they also uncovered something else. When they went through Alan's computer, they found a series of internet searches made shortly after Lisa's death. He had been looking up how different materials and conditions affect the rate of decomposition. As for the emails Lisa supposedly sent to her mom during the first month she was missing, those were also traced back to Alan's computer. Even more disturbing, detectives discovered that Alan had secretly installed spyware on Lisa's phone. It allowed him not only to listen in on her calls but also to record them. That's how he obtained the audio clip he later used in the voicemail to her mom. This revelation suggested that the murder may have been premeditated, directly contradicting what Alan had told the undercover officers during his confession. Still, proving that Alan had planned the murder in advance was nearly impossible. In the end, prosecutors agreed to reduce the charge to second-degree murder, which carried a lighter sentence. Alan's lawyer also advised him to take the deal and plead guilty. It was the best way to avoid facing a first-degree murder charge. But even then, Alan insisted he acted in self-defense. He claimed he had been a victim of domestic abuse for years, saying that Lisa had physically assaulted him on multiple occasions. Prosecutors, on the other hand, argued that Alan had planned the murder in advance and then spent years trying to cover it up. In the end, the judge ruled there wasn't enough evidence to convict Alan of second-degree murder. Instead, he was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to just 7 years in prison. Prosecutors immediately filed an appeal, and the court sided with them. Alan's sentence was reviewed and extended, but only by 3 more years, bringing his total to 10. Lisa's family and friends were outraged not only by the light sentence but even more so when Alan was granted early release after serving just 5 years. However, he quickly violated the terms of his parole and was sent back to prison, where he remained until 2022, when he was officially released. So while the punishment may have seemed shockingly lenient, the case still marked a rare and remarkable win for law enforcement. For an entire year, a team of undercover officers became part of Alan's everyday life, earning his trust and slowly guiding him into a carefully planned trap where he finally revealed the dark secret he had been hiding for years. It's also worth mentioning that after Alan's arrest, Lisa's children were placed in the care of her mother, and they have been living with her ever since. If you found this case intriguing, make sure to like and subscribe. We upload new crime case videos every night. Stay tuned and brace yourself for what's coming next.